Hello, everybody. We are live again. So we did this kind of talk. I think it was in November. Is that possible or December? We did that in December last year, and this year we are going to start again because it was so fun. Today I'm with Andrea. Andrea from US. How are you doing, Andrea? How was the start of your year?
I am doing excellently as 2022 is for everyone, is all about you. We're making new changes, new beginnings, new discoveries, and I'm so excited. So let's start it off right.
Yeah, so like as last time, so we have our subject there, but we have no clue about what we are going to speak about today. So
Correct.
let me just take a paper. Ooh, can you see that? You can see that?
Culture. I believe it says culture.
Culture, exactly.
Yes.
You cannot see. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. All about culture. So when I say culture, what do you think? What comes in your mind?
Well, that's a great question. Culture means a lot of different things for everyone. Culture can be your ancestral roots. Culture can be your traditions, your family, your friend annual traditions that you bring to the table. It also can mean food,
Oh,
lifestyle,
oh.
and clothing. Culture is what I feel is the underlying thread of what is your chemical, socio, spiritual, economical makeup. So when I see culture, I think it's something that you acquire and adopt when you are young, that you bring with you towards your childhood and livelihood. And then it's tweaked and modified as each year passes. So culture is the grounded roots that everything makes you up from, whether it be your accent, your cuisine, your clothing, your mindset, and your belief system, including traditions.
Yeah, so it's a lot of things. So, can you tell us a little bit about your culture? Because I know that you are in US, but you don't come from US at the beginning, isn't it?
Correct, correct. So, a little bit about me. I was born in Colombia, South America during the
That I
cartel.
remember.
It
Yeah.
was the war torn drug zone era at its prime. And unbeknownst to me, my parents were not able to care for me, let alone themselves. So, what they decided to do was they put me up for adoption at the age of 11 months old, weighing in at 11 pounds. That's a pound per month. And they had put me up for adoption and sent me to the promised lands of America, where I was welcomed with open arms, unconditional love, health, and wealth from my adoptive family. And my culture that I bring to me, I feel is family. It really hones true because although I don't have any pictures, medical records, any history of my Colombian descent, I still have the physical features. At times, I still have the accent. At times, I probably still have the robust characteristics of that diverse tribe and village where I came from in Colombia. And I brought those and acquired those roots to America. Even though I was only 11 months old, as we know that the nature and nurturance of life, a lot of your nature comes from the first couple of months in utero, what your mother is experiencing on the external, what you are experiencing from the psychosomatic, the natural and chemical reactions that are happening as you are born and into infantry, your surroundings. And then the nurturing probably kicks around the first 7 years of your life, give or take, depending on different studies. And so the first 7 years of life, I was in America and I've adopted the unconditional love and wealth and nurturance of my American family. And I married those two to bring me to what my mission is. My message to the world is to follow your heart and not the herd, nor the hurt. for on the other side is love, success, and happiness.
Yeah, I found this your story really, really interesting because you have been really like a baby as you left your 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 first country or your first culture, and then you come to US, and you are still really close to the first culture you come from. I wondering if do you think it's because in US your parent in US um, welcomed as well your culture, your first culture, that you could take both, that you had no enemies. So the first culture was a good culture, the second one, and you could embrace both. If your second family would have said, no, we don't want to see that anymore, maybe that wouldn't be so peaceful, isn't it?
Right. And that also great point you break up because you bring up, pardon me, because that is what I had instilled in my livelihood, because I have a history of a blank slate, if you will. And then I had to salt and pepper shake what was natural or native to me,
Mm-hmm.
and then marry it to the adoptive behaviors that I have from America. And it still kind of resounds in my ear because there'll be certain songs, you know, backgrounds or experiences that I feel like this is personal to me. Let me give you an example. So during the summers, we go to Native American powwows, right? And just the ambiance, not only is it peace, serenity, and nature, but some of the melodious songs or sounds of the
Mm-hmm.
tribes there really resonate with me on a personal level. And it's kind of innate. And so to take that along with my knowledge to dip into social work and psychology, social work to understand the diversity of the world and the lifestyles, cultures, beliefs, and religions, as well as psychology to the nature, nurturance, and science behind it. Absolutely, to your point, absolutely. It has been married together and kind of created a new force, if you will, of
Mm-hmm.
who I am today.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really like one plus one is equal to three. It's
Right.
like empowering it. I found that really interesting. I had an interview yesterday with a French lady. She lives in Germany. She comes in Germany really like I want to discover the country. I want to live something new. I want to be a different person because when we are in other countries, sometimes it gives us the freedom to be different, to be a different person. And then we spoke about that. We spoke about the fact to speak different languages, and then depending of the languages, we eventually have another character. And we spoke about the fact that it might be because we don't speak as good the second language or the third language, and therefore we are a little bit more shy, a little bit more insecure, and a little bit quiet. And when we speak our natural not mother tongue, so it's like, oh, okay, I find myself again. But what my feeling, because I speak German at home, so it's like the language of the family, and I live in Germany, my feeling is that depending of the language you speak, you adopt as well a little bit of the culture. Let's say that when I'm French, when I speak French, I have a certain way of being. When I speak German, I am a little bit more quiet, a little bit more structured. And
Right.
when I speak English, I am a little bit more, I use more superlative like amazing and stuff like that because it's what we do more in English than in French or German. So that the language has something to do with the culture as well.
Right. And that's what makes this world, this planet so beautiful is that we can adopt and acquire all these different lifestyles. And it's funny you mentioned that about the characteristics of the different languages you speak. So I speak Spanish, but
Mm-hmm.
in a casual and not fluent way. But if I'm in a community where Spanish is spoken predominantly, I can totally understand what they say, Granted, in my mind, I have to slow it down a little bit, but I feel like it's embodied in like my comfort zone where
Mm.
I, came from. And anybody who knows me, if I get excited or if I get upset, all of a sudden my Latin personality comes out, because it's either animated or what they call in Spanish, like the trills of the R's, like a rrr, like that sound
Yes,
comes
yeah.
out, or my boisterous personality of lack of patience or excitement and just the love for dance is just comes alive.
Mm.
And then when you do talking to the English component, it depends on how you are talking because, you know, over my journey, I've been able to speak on every single continent. And I understand when I speak to different cultures, there's a certain presentation
Definitely.
that you present, not only to be relatable, but also in the most highest and important in my mind is that of integrity and respect.
Mm.
And so, yes, absolutely, Christelle, it's you are kind of morph into the culture, kind of like a chameleon of where you fit and how do you utilize that conversation, that personality, or those mannerisms. Absolutely.
Mm. What I find interesting as well, it's when we speak about culture, is that when you come from country with one kind of culture and then you goes in another country, and because you speak the language, because you try to adapt, so sometimes you have the feeling that you lose yourself a little bit
Right.
because you have to detach yourself from your first culture.
Right.
And eventually it's really like you have to reinvent yourself, and you have to think about what do I take from my culture, what do I want to grab and to take with me, and what can I let go. And it's a lot of letting go beliefs, a lot of belief that you thought, oh, okay, that's for sure, we always have done this way, so why not?
Right.
And then you go in another culture, another country, and then you are like, oh my god, they do completely different. And then you have to really, like an onion, to look at what are my beliefs, is that okay, is that not okay, and I have to change that.
Right, absolutely. When I was in high school, we were able to go on a field trip to Spain, and I went to Toledo, Costa del Sol, and it was absolute Madrid. It was beautiful,
Mm,
but the culture we had to adapt to was that it was very religious, very disciplined until the sun goes down. And then it was kind of lackadaisical, where everybody was just welcoming on a whole, but it changed the culture shift from daytime to evening,
mm,
because daytime was a time of work and community and camaraderie and getting things done. And then you celebrate your wins, after the siesta, you celebrate your wins in the evening of, amazing cuisine and, gathering with your friends after work. And then a few years ago, I had taken a trip to Ireland, and that culture was completely different as well. It was kind of like they call it the crack of the culture, which is sarcasm and satire. But it's just kind of like, for me as an American, coming to visit, I was just like, okay, are you being sarcastic? Are you being rude? Or is that
mm,
is that how you come across? And after we stayed a few days, you kind of understood that's the way of how they deal with things. It's very
exact.
satiric and sarcastic. And so it's just like, and especially, I went to a high school that was very diverse with all different cultures, and I just learned so much. And I think we need to really embrace our differences as opposed to shun our differences as being insecurities and innuendos, because
Mm,
when we are authentic, what makes us different makes us authentic, and what makes us the same can unite us. And we
yeah.
have to shift the mind shift of that.
I agree. I agree. We have few person here. So Elizabeth, Anna, Aurélie, Christy, David. If you have any questions about culture or anything you want to add, just put that in the chat, and then we can comment it. It would be great to have your feedback about it. I like the idea to indeed to accept the difference, because so in my coaching I have a lot of people with a different culture, and a lot of people where they have different culture in the couple, so like me and my husband, so German and French, and sometimes it's even yeah, it's really different, and it's a big work on long term, because at the beginning, so you are like, oh, it's fun, it's different, it's fun, and but after a while it's a little bit, sometimes it's a little bit complicated, like you can feel that you are never going to be able to come back to some child souvenir or what happened in your past, so you cannot recreate it because the other person cannot understand your culture or is changing the memories. And it's a big work to do, like on a daily basis. And the same when you have children, then you have to let go of a lot of things to try to readapt. And I think it's the same for everybody, but I think when you have different culture, it's just a little bit more of work. And then, yeah, it's all about accepting the difference and letting go of what you cannot create again, but what you eventually can create differently.
Right. And that takes a lot of effective communication, listening and understanding,
Yes.
because you want to understand, you know, in the American families, there's a lot of, mixed cultures, Italian, Irish, then you have, the islands and, South America, the all mix and blends of the culture. And it's not easy. You are right. It's a lot of work because you're bringing, like for me, it's bringing three areas into play because you have the family I was born from, the family I was raised to, and then now my own family. And so, where do you find the happy median?
Mm,
And, that plays a big role as parents, as well as even prior to parenting and to getting married and instilling the relationships, the traditions, and the belief systems that you have. And
exactly.
it's not easy, but I think most importantly, what we have to understand is that what do we want to bring forward from the legacies of our loved ones? What is the heritage? What is the traditions that we want to keep on going? But also respect and accept the other entity involved. When people were getting married, I know a lot of the different, because I have a lot of different friends that are, of multi diverse backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like you have to have an understanding, what are the traditions, but it doesn't have to be one or the other. Why can't you have all? And that's what we have to keep in mind, respecting the families of our past, our ancestry, where we came from, to lead the legacy into a new one with love, but also bring into fruition your own traditions, your
Yes.
own magic. And that's the beauty of it. And there's no right or wrong way to do so. And
Mm.
that's what we have to understand, that there's always another way, another
Yeah,
option.
I really like that. It's really like, okay, having that in mind. So, what happened in the past, the kind of culture we have, trying to be conscious about the culture we have, to think about, okay, I love this part of my culture. I would like really to take that in my new family. And then with consciousness and with the partner, so to just try to do like a new mix of new rules, of new tradition that we want to give back to our children and look in the future. And really like the idea to think that there is no right, there is no wrong, is just present, and it's just the fact that do we want to accept that, or do we want to continue that or not. But I know that in my case, so there is some things that my husband does, and at the beginning was like, no, it's not right. I cannot accept that because in France we don't do that, and blah blah blah,
Right,
blah. And then
right,
after a while, I say, okay, maybe I don't like that, which is okay. I can have my understanding and my thought, but I cannot say that what I learn from my culture that it's better. That's
right.
not true. It's really
Absolutely.
letting the ego on the side and continuing with the new mix of culture.
Right. And that's what makes it amazing is because when we kind of soften the lines of the differences amongst cultures and we kind of allow it to fade, but kind of gel them together. Think about it. It's like bringing a new fusion
Mm,
of the life for our children and future generations. You know, if you have an island background and an Italian Irish background, and then, you know, a South American background, why not fuse them together and, you know, agree on some of them that are great that you'd like to continue on.
yeah,
You
and
know, we
at the
have to be open minded.
yeah, and at the end, I think we are all human. So that's mean that the main things that we have in
Mhm.
common, it's more or less the same. So like
Right,
we want to connect, we want to be understood, we want
mhm,
to love, we want to open up, and that's it's international. We just have different ways of putting that together. But if we keep that in mind, what we have, the common circle, so what we have in common, so then we can just laugh about how we put that together,
right.
and that make it interesting, and that make us curious about the others. Yeah.
And it's great to be creative. You know, that
Mm,
is what's been lost in this world is imagination and creativity. And when we allow that to come forward and mold us into something new, and it's important, Christelle, that we learn about each other's cultures because what divides us most of the time is limited knowledge and lack of willingness to learn.
yeah.
And when we start to research and underline, let's be honest, every culture has an underlying thread of some sort,
Mm,
but have like in the cuisine, they might use the same ingredients, just call it something different.
yes, definitely.
They might have a dance, but it looks a little bit altered depending on where it's from. They might have, you know, a belief system, but just a slight shift to the right. If you change it, it's really the same message
Yeah.
you're conveying. So we
So
have to definitely be, you know, educated, informed a lot. Like you said, it's most important to understand it's okay to agree to disagree and be respectful and civil when doing so. And then create an amazing fusion of
yeah.
everything that you
So why do you think that we or a lot of us or generally we don't do that, we don't accept so easily the culture of others, or that's when we are in a culture of surrounded with another culture, we are like, oh my god, I cannot take it, I don't feel secure. So why are we not able just to open up and to accept what's happening?
let's think about it. We are creatures of comfort. If we can change, if change was easy, we would change every day. And it's not easy to change your channel.
Yeah.
And other times it may be that their culture focuses more on family. The other culture focuses more on religion. The other focuses on discipline. It may be you know, when you step outside your comfort zone, that's when you're most resistant. But if
Mm,
it's for a good cause, then it's something you must do.
yeah.
And what we do is we are resistant and hesitant to change is because the unknown. What
Yeah.
if I make a mistake? They're all going to judge me if I don't do this dance or make this cuisine or speak this way or understand it fully.
Yeah.
We are our own worst critic and we always get in our own way.
Yeah.
And when we allow our guards to be vulnerable, put down and be vulnerable and learn, that is when we are most powerful, impactful, and influential.
Yeah,
And
so
I truly believe we are creatures of comfort. It is not easy to change, but when you're willing, just think the
yeah.
best positive, what you can learn.
So that means that we have to learn to judge less, because if
Yes.
we judge less, so we know that we feel more confident to to be a misfit or to do things wrong. So we have to learn to be vulnerable, to open up and to say, okay, it's okay not to be perfect, and it's okay to show that I have weaknesses and I don't know how to do and I don't feel comfortable right now. So it's two things to judge less, to show our vulnerability, and to just jump.
Yeah. And I mean, who are we to judge? When you find someone perfect, let me know because I'm still looking for that person because there's no such thing as perfection.
No, 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 no.
It's progression towards success, progression towards transformation. And it's just a learning process and embracing the journey. And I remember this quote, actually, it's from a movie of a quote. Socrates says, all I know is that I know nothing.
Exactly.
And that is the most powerful statement I kind of take with me that when I'm ready to judge, then I'm no longer a human because that means that humans make mistakes. We're emotional. We're powerful beyond belief.
Yeah,
But when we feel and search for that perfection, we're really losing because
yeah.
we're not enjoying ourselves and allowing ourselves to grow, make mistakes, and learn from our lessons and losses.
And I agree with the fact that if we learn to judge less, so we are more comfortable in being vulnerable. When we are more comfortable in being vulnerable, we are in our power. So it's at that moment that we can really do something out of our comfort zone. And I know that the fact to judge less helps really to feel more at peace and to give space in the mind, because you have less thoughts, and it just gives you space, and then you are more free to do whatever you want. So it's really, really
It's really
powerful.
simple. It's simple and powerful, but we as humans complicate the most simplest things, and the complex things we make simple. Go figure. But
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
still learning.
Okay, great. So the end word would be: we judge less, we accept to be vulnerable, and we just see the common things in human being, and not only what separate us, or we can be curious about what separate us and our different cultures.
Most importantly, like I always say, one of my most favorite lines, even though the play is sad, Les Miserables, to love another person is to see the face of God.
Nice, nice. So
We're
thank
all human, we're all unique, and
yeah.
it's our differences that make us authentic.
I agree. I fully agree with that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Andrea, for being with me. So it's 9 o'clock for you. It's
Yes,
like, or 9:30 for you. It's
yes,
3:30 for me, afternoons,
yes.
and and I wish you a very nice day. I wish you, all of you, a very nice day or evening, wherever you are, with your culture, with your difference, with your uniqueness. Bye bye.
Take care.
Take care.